Hello everybody. Welcome once again to my new screencast. My previous screencast was on the concept of monolithic application versus uh, microservice based applications. The monolithic application versus monolithic architecture versus microservice architectures. And with this screencast was also included the Spring cloud-based microservice registration processes and discovery and monitoring processes for the screencast number 25th. So today I would like to continue this video with the concept of API designing concept, API developments, and configuration deployment processes. If you see the flow diagrams, one of the one of the clients demanding for us one of the implementation for the microservices or RESTful API need to need to supply for them for their company or for their development team. So if you look at, yeah, basically the client would like to do some health service based applications, and they need something health service RESTful API or microservice APIs. So then we have an idea, okay, the client has no specification which database they would like to use. Is it a SQL based database and non-SQL based database? After a long discussion, we have get a decisions. They have the two version of the backend. So in the SQL world, they selected this like MySQL or Postgres is one of the options, or in non-SQL world, or maybe Cassandra or MongoDB or Redux or Gamefire. In the non-SQL part, still they are not final decisions. They has to be get a decision, and we have to be take the decision, and we will have to be implement the same features based on the non-SQL database. But here today I would like to give you the how the SQL world their requirement has to be done and has to be done. If you see the diagrams, so if you have a really big company, then you see there has a lot of development teams, at least the three development team. They has a backend development team, they have the business logic or API or interfaces development team, and they have the front-end development team. So then that means the ball in large company, they are divided the part of the developments, uh, as like the smaller company, or they have no such a infrastructure or development process but development steps. In a smaller company, as a developer, they are almost full stack developer. So that means you have to be maintain your database, you have to be deploy your APIs or your API libraries, and you have to be implement your front end or your web developments. And as a developer, as a full stack developer, you has to be deployed the all application from environment to environment. So if you see the diagram, so as a developer, we start our development, we implement our API, and we deploy our API to the development environments, and then the web developer consume our APIs. And if this one of the version is finished and in the released, and you have to be if the customer says, ooh, we need some migration, from development to TST, and TST means test environment, and TST to the QA, quality assurance environment, or team, and then QA to the production environment. So that means you have to be take this responsibility to migrate from database from one environment to another environment. So, and then your API, your implemented API has to be deployed from development to TST to quality assurance, and then quality assurance to the in the productions. And the same thing for happening in web part. So you have to be take the your web application to put it the TST, and then in QA, and then production environments. So this is the relative tentative, or I can say the relative diagram to the complete picture of the developments. So here we try to make one microservice or RESTful API that's the customer need, and this is the one of the release, the very first release. You see in the pictures, and then we try to implement, or you try to develop this API, and we try to externally configure it, and we try to deploy this application into the different environment. This was the main goal for this screencast. So then let's have talk about little bit about the concept of API designing. So when you try to design your API, then you have to be think about first which concept has to be take. Is it XML based concept or is REST based concept? So that means XML based in the older world, older days or older years, it was like a SOAP based concept, and now is the REST world. REST and XML is together. So that's the two way. So now this screencast, we try to make our REST APIs with as a SOAP concept, or a REST concept, and that's the main goal from the main goal or main requirement from the customer. And you see that the design is a design. API design is hardest part, because it has to be fulfill the business demand and also the goals of the business. Means the requirement of the you clients, or your requirement from the product owner, and use cases. Use cases means in the client they have a user experience, even though as a API supplier, as a API developer, you have to be think about the use cases for these API, and also these API should be long lived. That means if something change in the technology, or in the change in the requirements, or in some modification for the customer requirement, that has to be fit together. And also the future extension means the upcoming technologies. That means we have to be, or as API developer has to be think about all stuff together. Otherwise it doesn't play a long role for your implemented API. And that's why the API designer is one of the hardest part, how he's designed his API to fit all those requirements. API are the interface for the other. You have to think about API is interface for the other developer. I mean, if you release the your API, you deploy your API, the other developer, as like web developer, has to be integrate your API. That means we need to somehow clarify or define or documented all the APIs very specific way, or very or properly. Then the other developer can easily understand. I mean, the front-end developer can easily understand, and they can communicate communicate very easily the APIs. So here is I say is a special dialogue. The API is like a singer performing on stage. Its user are the audience. That means if you have a good singer, then audience can hear it, and the audience has more attention for singing the singer, and also the song of the singer. And good API, or I mean the good designing API, has to be independent for the platform and service revolution, adaptations, and also the upcoming technologies, and that should be fit to the other developer and make them life easier. So the designing of the API, there is some set of requirement from the customer. They says in the API should include the demographic information, administrative information, health informations, and patient information, and medical management information, and data address location information, and user registration, user role data. Sure, they provide only the abstract level information, which information they needed. Then as an API designer, we need to which content of those information has to be done or has to be included. And then we have again the discussion with the customer, and which information, which field, or which attribute, or which content they needed. And then we come to the relative decision. Okay, here maybe the very first release has to be contain these informations, and after the second release, then maybe they will add more, or maybe they will little bit change the data structure, the model of the data structure. Then this, let's see how we need to initially deploy one of the release for the customer. That was the main idea for this. So now is a big questions. Okay, our requirement is done over data sets, some specific requirements, and then now is a questions how we should deploy our REST API or our applications to the different environments without any changing the source code, or without any compiling the source code. That's the big challenge. Normally this challenge take over to the installation department. You build your application as a development environment, and you put your application file, your source file, like WAR file or jar file, and the installation department has to be maintained to put the installation or to migrate all the backend databases in the different environments. And last time I said, as a smaller company, you have to do. So that's why is really important to understand how the installation process done in the different environments, and how the migration process has to be done from one database to another database. That's the important part. So that's a question. How can I do that's the Spring with Spring based applications? So this is the screencast cover this part. And then there is another questions. How can we do in the Grails based application? I will try to make include within the next screenshot. How can you do if it's the Grail based application? Then how can you do the above steps for the client? So that means there's another requirement coming from the customer. This says our API implemented. This API has to be connected, or has to be connected with externally, and also this API has to be used by the third party. Third party means other company or other developer or other development teams. And then we need to supply the configuration process, the configuration step. That means we need to give them the possibility to install from development to product test to quality assurance, and quality assurance to the production level. I mean the production means in live level. So and then the requirement, another requirement, second requirement was must be multiple environment without anybody. That's I said last time. So we define here, they define here development environment, test department, QA department, production department, and rail department. Maybe they have different rail 1, rail 2, or live 1, live 2. It's so on. It's if the configuration is done, it's easy to install your application to different environment, or to migrate your database from different one environment to another environment. So And that's the third requirement. This is the complex part. Complex part. That's because this says development database versus the production database. So that means there has to be the same database in development environment has to be migrated to the production environments. And there is another complex part. You see, there's a complex part here. The test bank information, test environment, bank information versus the production environment bank information. That means if your application is deployed in the test environments, your test backend has to be migrated to the production environment. That means I have to be migrate from my application from the development to the production, from the development to the test, and accumulate the bank information with the development data set, and after that we combine, then we have to be set those data set into the production environment. This is one of the installation process, one of the configuration process we have to be fit, we have to be give the customer. So there's a lot of possibility for me. As a possibility I find is really good and flexible, and it's a professional in this is industry standard process. So in the external configuration, we should give them the properties or configuration informations over the database credentials and network locations. So Spring has a possibility to really flexibly and optimum way to customize those. You know already that as a Spring developer or Spring application developer, there is a default application properties files. This is the file is automatically generated from the when you generate the Spring application in by default, and we can put it here like YAML file also sometimes, depending on the which platform. Is a Grails platform or is a Spring Boot platform. Basically the Spring support both part application properties files and YAML files. So there is a most important concept, the profile specific properties files. So you see the application, your environment and the properties, and selected by this location you can do the selection also. So here we see the development dev environments, then this one. So that means in the application source code or in the application class path, there will be the more or 4 or 5 files like application minus development, application minus test, rel, and QA, and so on and so forth. That means in this file, from the externally we have to be overwrite it, we have to be configure it. Then you or installation team can just change the properties file from the externally and deploy the application all of the environments. So there is you know already the environmental variable settings or command line algorithm. There is a more approach you can do it. So we will cover all of them in our development, in our installation, in our configuration in the later section of the video. So it has some small example, like our application is this, and you can just Java, this is the simple commands, and put it there. If you have the externally located your files, then you just put it your path location and the file name and path of your files, and then you just run it in the command mode in the CMD and run this application, and this application has to be installed with these respective locations. So, and that is the environmental settings, and you set your environmental variables and run the application with the above environmental settings. And there is another way, programmatically loading your configuration to your applications. And that's the theoretical background. And now we start our implementation, our applications to fit all of those requirements. Means all of the theoretical concept, we try to do it. Let's have a start to generate the project by using the Spring Initializer. This is the really friendly tools. You can here is Spring Initializer tools, and then you have to be fix your which building tool you would like to use. For our case, it's a Maven project, and you can select your language and also the version of the Spring Boot, and we selected 14, and then you have to be put it your group names. So for our case, it's look like our group names and also the project names. You can put it here as artifactory name, as a unique identifier, um, artifactory names, and then even though you can search with the wave with the search dependency, or we can go with the selections in the top down selections. And so you can change it here, some descriptions or your projects demo and your base package. And this is the important one for your packaging. So for our case, we based on Java packaging, even though you can select your Java version for our case. And so we need the DevOps tools with the web and with the REST API, the dependency, and we need the JPA and MySQL. JPA is optional, you can do it, and the MySQL dependency, and we need some actuator which will generate the respective endpoints, like the server health conditions or application health conditions or metrics information and log information for for activating the actuator. So if the selection is done, and see the selection, early selection is here. So you need shorter versions, and even though you can search it by from here, delete and MySQL if you don't like it. Oops. MySQL dependency, and you will generate the projects and download the projects into your local system and import the project into your respective IDE. For my case, I use the STS tools, Spring tool suites. I found it's really good for Spring based development tools or IDE. So I already imported to the project. I unzipped it and imported to my workspace. So here is our imported projects, and here is the main class or your main methods from here. And as we discuss our data models, and here is our data models and respective content information, and this is the information for the address location. Here you see there is a latitude, longitude, and even though you can take a picture from the Google Maps or Yahoo Map or OpenStreetMap and put it there as a binary format, and this is the relationship. So that means one demographic means one person has multiple address locations, and one person or one person has a multiple administrative information. Administrative means the health insurance information, who is the provider of the health services. That's the definition coming from the client that we discussed already. Was the content of the informations, and there is in the down level you see the standard getter and setter methods, and then the one-to-many related. And here is our administrative informations, which information has to be contained, how the mapping is done for supporting the SQL database, for MySQL database. So you see the relationship. One administrative has administrative information has multiple location. Maybe your insurance provider is located in Germany or France or USA or Canada or Australia or Bangladesh, and that's why you have a one administrative is linked to the multiple address locations, and one administrative unit or health service provider has a multiple patient information. So, and demographic information, we contain all of them, and health information, there's a little bit here informations. which informations, health ID, health type, insurance provider or issues, and there is a medical information. So medical means information contained each of the patients, how the existing medical information means how the medicine is there, how when it started, when it ended, and the quality and use cases, and who is the medicine supplier, or I mean the drug supplier, and who, and some remarks and descriptions, and that's all. And you see the medical information is linked to the patient informations. It's logically linked, and there is below is a standard getter and method, and then getter and setter methods. So here your patient informations contain all respective informations and contain the linking among the among the among the objects. I mean the ORM for the tables and objects, and the registration informations. And this registration information is containing the bill information. One user, if he's the private user or logged in user, and he has to be set his username and password with respect information, and he has multiple role. It's an admin role, is officer role, or is a desk officer role, or executive role, or is a staff role, and a lot of things. And there's a role informations. You can categorize type of role and when he joined, and was the user date for this was the deadline for this the registration for specific logged in user. And this is the complete relatively complete, we can say relatively complete the data structure or relational model or ORM mappings. And then we need to do that the respective repositories to build the CRUD operations. So if you go there, so I minimize some tab, then you can see clearly. So here's the default locations, the paging. We use the paging and sorting repository. There is no specification for the client. We, as a developer, we understand this is the good way to, you can do the app when your API is released, and the web developer, you try to use it, and then they have the paging and sorting options. Paging means each page how many record you would like to present, the web developer would like to present, and how the columns, the content has to be sorted by ascending or descending order. That's the paging and sorting repository did for this. On here is the same thing for the administrative info, and this is the demographic and health information, medical information, and the patient, and then the user registration. And this is another, there's your own customized interface, the repository interface. So it's JPA repository implemented, and you wrote it here your own query. That means you have a more control via this interface. And here is the paging sorting repository. There's another repository, is your own control, not the default one. The previous one was the previous, all of those was the default repository control, and you have its own customized own control. So let's see later. There's another default repository for the role. So that means we have a default repository, and also our own defined repository. The later we can customize those repositories as what we needed for any extra control or any extra modification or customization for those models or those domain objects for those CRUD operation. So here is our customized in service definition, the interface definition. Here is our the own interface definition, and here is the implement our own interface as annotated by service. That means this is our own defined interfaces. We need to implement those informations, and then we implement this way, so we can see the closed loop. I will put it all the source code in the GitHub as a name, same name, UVSoftGroup. You can get it from there. So this is the implementation for the paging and sorting for the REST API for the user registration JPA. So our implementation part is almost done. Now next we need to configuration. So the model part is the model package is there, repository package there, resource package is there, and also the implementation package. Basically, I love this structure, the project, the file structure or module as a modular form is a professional way in the industry. So that means if you have a model and you have a repository and you have a resource and then the service and service implementations, and now start our main part, the configuration part. So if you see there is the 5 properties or 6 properties file. So that means this is the profile level, which environment you would like to deploy or install these API applications or this API in the health service API. So and then so in the externally you try to override this properties file. So you see there the initial properties file, you have the server will be started with this port and you started your machine, and this is our local machine development machines, and this is the part you should override, or the installation department or you should override it, or you have to change it. The local name, your computer name, or your data center locations, the data connection, whereas the network location is there. Maybe your data center is the USA or Australia or Canada, then you have to be put the machine name and then your network credentials, and this is your application name, and this is the main part of your data source URL. So this is the MySQL and this is the database name in the development environment. So it is a user root, and this is the one of the uh, um, and this is the property, the password, and this is the password for your development environments. So and that's all, and then you use the MySQL driver, but nowadays in the upper Spring Boot versions you don't need to do this. The class name is enough for the data source URL, and you have the show the selector, the show the SQL true, and then the hibernate DLL automatic means create update. You can set it here when it's go to the final release, and you set it out. Um, the update means the existing data set will be still stay there, and you additional information has to become to this here. So this information to configure. It's the same thing in here. So you see the same thing is here. So that means as a developer, we define those properties files, and those properties file should be override or maintained externally. So you see the development properties file, and there's a production properties file is still the same information, same, and here's a quality and the release and the test, and all are the same files. We try to override these files. So let's try to generate our very first release for this API, and then this is the first release. Just you go there and install and run as a Maven installer. So you can clean it, your project. If there's something wrong, clean it and rebuild it, and then so on so forth. I already generated one of the release versions for this API to deploy in the different environments. So it's a look at here. So this is our initial release number 0010. Maybe in the next release you have some changes in the requirements or in the models or implementations, and you release the version number 0020 or whatever it is you like to see. And this is the convention that I follow, the industry follow. Like you have this really small bug, or you bug fixing this the first number, and then you have a little major don't change the interface level, just major change maybe in the class level, and there is a major if is interface change, and this is the industry political issues, and then I'll put this way, and then so the our version is there. So I just copy our application, our jar file into our any directory, and you see the jar files. So here is jar files, here is our. So I wrote it here some script for you, and how can we configure externally. This is the really important. You have to be more attention to give more attention here. So it says is a development dev dev password, and see, so you define your Java locations, and you define your port number, which port are free into the respective machine or your deployment machine, and you have to put your machine number, machine name into the respective environments. And so we changed it. You see in the source code we define is like 1030, but we changed the port because maybe the developer machine they have its 1030 is free still, but on the different machines, and we change the port. That's what I give you information how we can do the override, how can we configure it. That's the definition. So we set all the environmental variable in the theoretical part. I explain how can we set environmental. This is the environmental parameter settings you do here. So we put it here. So this is our application jar files, and then this is our profile definition environments. So we try to deploy our application in development environment in a different machine for us, because we are still working in the development in the local machine and local host, and we change our database name, dev, and then we change our the user and the password, and that's what we have to do. I already wrote some small script to generate all the databases in the in all the databases for development, production, test, and QA and real environments. So if you see, I think so is here is the database. So I wrote some script and they automatically generate then the 5 databases: Dev, Pro, Q, QA, and rel and TST environment. So with this, within for a time shortage, we just try to test something to deploy the application development and the test, or maybe production, one of them, these two, to try to test it somehow. So here is the configuration is done, and the you or installation department has to be changed this part, and this is the service calling part. So you define all your environmental variables and you call it and set the path of your Java and set all the properties. This is the properties is try to override our inside our application, inside our class path, to override this key, and this is the value, changed value set it here. So here is your port number, your address, your computer address, or where is it located, and your PC or your data center, or this is the important. This is the active, means which environment you try to install or you try to configure. We try to override the properties. So this is the URL of the database and password, and so on and so forth. So let's start to deploy our application to the development environment. So we already wrote it here, our environmental variable settings and also the script, and then start to the server, the service, and to deploy the application to the development environments. Let's start it. So let's see, it's look like the application properly started to the port number 1818, and then this is the development environment. So we need to reset our environmental variables and run the application to the production environment. So we change our port in the application has to be run with the production environment with the 991919, and you set to the your computer name or data center location name, and you have to change your actual profile. So for this case we already sent it to and then this is your production database. We already installed, or we already generate this database, and this is the user, and this is the password, and then now this application has to be run with this port and with this database in the production environment. So let's have a set. The other settings is as it is. Then we need to run the application to the production environment. So same, the file is there, our application is there. Then now we need to run our again our start service. Then application should start somehow. Let's build all the respective databases and the relationships. So now application is started to the production environment with port number 1919. So now we need to something to test. For testing our API with the development environment and the production environment, I would like to use the Postman. It's a good tools and really flexible tools. You can use other tools like SOAP UI or REST client API, REST client tools and browser based tools, or any suitable tool for you for testing the API. For our case, we test our API with the Postman. So we already set our Postman testing setup. You can see our development environment test cases and test environments, and then also the release environment and the production environments. Those are the test cases. So for this case, we just installed our application to the development and the production. So you can do whatever you'd like to do. You can do the production rel test. For the time shortage, we just did it only 2 environments to install the application. Let's see, is the application is up for this time. No, it's not up. And let's see, in the production environment, is the application is up. Yes, production environment is up. Do some test with that. The environment is up. So the application is there. There's nothing is there. So do some import. Then insert some data. You see, sets at the contact variable and also the format of the data, and then you set your raw data sets in the JSON file, JSON key and values properties. So let's have a look in here very fast. And we have the production environments, and then we set a global variables. So maybe you can look in my channel. There is a special video with Postman. How can you set the global variables, and how can you customize your test cases, and how can you import and export your test cases to send to the other guys or other developers or test departments. They can import your script or your files, and then they can run the same thing in their machines, and just they need to change the properties, the values of their machines and their port number. So you see the configuration is a very optimized. So just you can do this way, and then this I found it really good way to handle this. This is a professional way. So we try to insert some data in the database. So it's created successfully. and let's see more, and then more, and this is perfect, and that's the more records. So we update the record number 2, so record number 1, to update in the we can see in the effect of the database in the later section of the when I test cases is done. So send to the update the database. So this is okay. Is the database is up to date? Is data is coming soon? And then number delete. We will delete number 2 as so as is there, and then send to the delete options and delete the number 2. So this is the production CRUD operation for the one of the specific API or the user registration API, and we have a lot of APIs. We have address location API, the CRUD interactions, and we have the health information, patient information, medicine management informations, and user registration, user role, and all contents. For the time shortage, we just did it only one testing, one API CRUD operation to test it. So here our test is it doesn't work. And why is it not work? So because we set wrong environment. So it's now let's check, is it okay, is development set, and it is down. So it is down the application. So then the same thing you can do with the because we shut down our development environments, and you can do also the same thing in the rail and test department. So in the testing you can do more. Just look for our channels. There is a special video how can you customize your test scenario. Let's have a look for our data sets, how is look like, how is look like in the data set. And this is the data set. So in the we put it some data into our production environments. Let's check our data set is properly inserted to the database and in the production environment, and also properly updated and deleted. Let's overcheck that one. So here the SQL statement. Okay, that's perfect. And let's check. So databases. Okay. Then use databases. So tables. Okay, that's your data set. The tables are generated here. So you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 tables. So we did some insert and put some we updated some one record and also deleted one record, and let's see how much we inserted 4 records and number 2 is updated, and so we should get in the database 4 record with updated information. So select somehow, let's select yes, select. So you see the number 2 is deleted as a delete actions, and then this is the number 1 is up to date. So everything is perfect in the database level. The API is properly working in the development environments. So the same thing you can do in the development, production, rel, or release, or whatever it is in live environments. So that's the main idea. So we conclude the complete development, configuration, and testing, and so on and so forth. And you can get it for more information into the Google search. Just search in the UVSoftGroup, and we have the YouTube channels, and we have the GitHub. That's all the source code is there, and we have the public groups. So here is the information for the channels. We have in total 25 videos, and go there and check it, what you needed, and then we can do more for you to support more things for you. So finally you could subscribe my channel, and and press the bell button to get subscription for my any upcoming videos. And this is the final issues. And then So 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 that's the goal. We did it. So we did our implement our REST services, and we put we generate our development database, our production database, and then we put it our API to the production, and also our development. And then after that, if the web developer has to be the client what they expected, they has to be, we did our job. And then this is the very first release, and then maybe next release in the same thing has to be done, but the same way, same stuff in the same we need to do. So now for today is goodbye, and see you later.